Okay. Today, my guest is Professor Lemma Senbet. I'll keep my introduction short to maximize our time with him. In the next 30 minutes or so, we'll talk about Lemma as a person. Professor Senbet is a thought leader and an esteemed scholar, and finally, is a mentor to many PhD students and junior faculty. For the sake of time, I'll skip many of his accomplishments and give you a very quick snapshot. Professor Senbet is a fellow of the AIB and the Financial Management Association. He was inducted into the Financial Economists Roundtable. He was awarded Ethiopian Diaspora Award for exemplary lifetime achievements and community service. He has served as Executive Director, CEO of African Economic Research Consortium, and is the founder and served as the founding director of the Center for Financial Policy at Maryland. Between 1959 and 2008, he was ranked number 24 among 8,900 authors contributing to leading finance journals. He has been elected twice to the board of directors of the American Finance Association, has served as the past president of the Western Finance Association, has served on editorial boards of leading finance journals, and recently in 2021, he was appointed to the Council of Independent Economic Advisors by the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. Thank you, Lemma, for joining us.
Thank you.
First question, what did you want to become when you were a child?
Interesting question. In high school, I had passion for engineering and physics. And I went to the university to sign up for entry into engineering or physics. And then I saw a long line for something else. There was apparently a new school of business in Ethiopia, founded by a consortium of institutions in the US, and people were lined up. And then I switched my line. Okay. And I didn't even know what I was getting into. And it was business. And then I thought that if I simply put down as my first choice, given this stiff competition, I thought I would not get into this. So there was no risk of not getting into engineering. So I had my first choice, and that's how the whole thing began. That completely changed my career.
Actually, in all these more than 170 interviews, luck plays a lot of actually very important role in people's lives. And some people are determined from the first day to become an academic, but not really, not for everyone. Luck actually has played.
In fact, my journey is totally uncharted. I don't want to go into every epoch. That fact, where I'm at now is really an outcome of very uncharted journey for me.
I'm curious, Lemma.
Yes.
So you didn't get into the engineering line, you got into the business school line. Then after Ethiopia, what happened?
So basically, I came here to get my master's and then go back to Ethiopia, because those were very good old days. Emperor Haile Selassie was still in power, so it was unusual for Ethiopians to go overseas and not come back. Okay, and then what happened was, when I was at UCLA, they had a pretty innovative structure of MBA. Two options. One was a more quantitative option, and you get that done within a year. And the other one was a regular option. And I was funding myself for the most part. I opted for the 1 year option. And then as soon as I got done, I didn't want to go back immediately. Okay. And then I went to my professor. I said, look, I'm looking for some options so that I can get money and then go back. And the guy said, why don't you apply for a PhD program? That's the other element of uncharted territory. I think I won't stop her. That's how I, and then my plan, by the way, was not even to finish the PhD program, to really stay and get, I knew that they give money. So my plan was to just stay for 1 year and go back to Ethiopia. Then things changed. That's what happened. Yeah, and then there was a change in government. Okay, that's what.
Ethiopian government.
Ethiopian government. So,
Yeah.
so basically, they, and it ends up changing by trajectory, basically, from one of wanting to get my master's and go back and have, professional life, and then getting into this PhD, and then now, despite the fact that I had planned to stay there for a short term, then I got into, in some sense, for a longer term. That's what happened.
Beautiful.
Yes.
So, something that is not on your CV that people might find interesting about you, like your hobbies.
Well, you may not believe this. I tend to be spiritual, not in an organized sense, okay, like an organized religion. I'm a strong believer in praying. And then from this angle that when we came to this planet, we are really beyond ourselves. So the whole idea of, I don't even go to church regularly, but I have this deep notion that whenever I face challenges, I feel like there's somebody else with me, okay? So that is something that I didn't put that on my resume, but I think has been pretty important in my life.
Okay, that was very helpful.
Yeah.
Regrets, any regrets in life?
Yeah, okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I had to stay on longer in the US because of change in the government. And then that government did not change for about 17 years. So I had to go back after 17 years of absence. And when I got there, these guys were very eager to get me involved at a high level, okay? And so I was given opportunities, and I knew that these guys were very command mentality, very socialistic. So I decided to take the opposite, the radical approach. And when I was given an opportunity to lecture, I started talking about privatizing and development of stock exchanges, even having stock exchanges to be domiciled in the headquarters of their party. Okay, and there were big guys listening there, and then as it turned out, that did not go very well. Okay, so that I think I should have done proper due diligence, and also get to have information on the limits and the boundaries. So that I was out of boundaries. Okay, and so I've actually learned a lesson from that as well.
But did they give you a topic to talk about, or did you choose the topic
not only
yourself?
that, it turns out they were actually considering me from one of the cabinet positions.
Oh, I see.
They didn't give me a topic. They wanted me to talk about finance because my objective was to shock them, okay? To shock them.
Well, you achieved it.
Socialistic thinking. But the approach I took, it ended up being quite radical. And there was one of my classmates from olden days. He was also given a position. He already became Minister of Industry. So he was kind of confident, and he was saying, "Wow." And he ended up talking to the Prime Minister, the second guy in command. They were shocked, okay, but they felt that I was totally outside the boundary, So
I see.
Yeah.
Well, you learned something from it. The second question, the other follow-up question: what did you learn from it? Due diligence, obviously.
Yeah.
What are you most passionate about?
Okay, this is in some sense another renewed thing that happened to me. I started, as you know, in the mainstream finance area with international dimensions, basically half and half. I'm what we call more of an interdisciplinary researcher. Okay, and then after things moved, I was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. That's where I started my career. And they were very, very nice, really nurturing my professional success. And things went fast for me. Right? So when I came to Maryland, it was really it was the same level. I already had chaired professorship at Wisconsin. But once I stayed for a few years in Maryland. I started getting connected with the motherland, basically Africa. Okay, so I started serving for this African Economic Research Consortium as a resource person. You know, that really got me to rethink my research beyond writing, publishing, and getting citation, but seeing if this could actually impact livelihoods. So that's the reason I took a 5-year leave of absence to head this institution. So the things that are still in my passion are how do I bring paradigms in finance and my research and my interaction with policy so that I can impact livelihoods. That's fair.
Okay. And are you still active with the African Research Consortium?
No, I'm not. You know that in academia, universities do not allow you to go away for an extended leave of absence. So in fact, at the university, the maximum was 3 years. So I had to get an exception to get a 5-year leave of absence, which is the full term of the CEO of that entity. So I have to come back. Otherwise, I will lose the job. Okay. But my engagement now is going back to what I used to do for them. That is becoming a member of the International Resource Group. But that job opened up a lot when I came back to Washington. The reason was that when I was exiting, I had an exit interview with a board that I'm reporting to, that almost 18 members representing various governments around the globe. So they said, we want you to be engaged with Africa. I thought they were saying I should come back. I said, no, I'm not coming back. No, they said, no, there's a lot of stuff that's going in Washington that has an impact on Africa. As it turned out, they were right, because as soon as I came back, I started getting calls. So that's why I got to be a member of the groupings, Distinguished Advisory Group. I got into G20 compact with Africa. And then, the Think Africa Partnership. So there's a lot of stuff that is happening in Washington, and it's ended up building up. And in fact, it started crowding out a lot of what I'm doing. I have to go back and downsize my employment by 20% to do that. Okay.
Oh,
so I get engaged, but there are so many opportunities to get engaged with Africa from here, and that's what I'm doing.
I see. And let's talk about research in general terms, about how you see the next phase, next 5 to 10 years of IB research coming out. What do you think is going to take importance in the field?
So I think, I guess the question, I'm going to answer this question based on my own biases, I think. Okay. And in fact, my own wishes, basically. But I really think that we should embrace grand challenges, okay, facing society. For instance, take COVID-19. What COVID-19 really got us to be awakened is the positive and negative externalities of corporations and multinationals. So for instance, if you take vaccine production, the vaccine production, Pfizer or Moderna, there's no way that they had internalized all those benefits. Definitely, these are examples of positive externalities. But then you also have negative externalities, relating to issues of, say, carbonization or even bad governance. So really thinking more broadly about the traditional IB type decisions in corporate investment, financing, direct foreign investment, cross-border, from broader societal impact standpoint. I think that is going to get more attention. That's also a space that I'm getting into. And then, of course, that phase, as we also know, this whole issue of green economy and climate change. And the third is really my wish. I feel like there is a lot of silo amongst disciplines, like finance, marketing, and strategy. As a result, the mainstream finance guys have difficulty communicating with them. There is finance and IB, right? Even like communicating GIPs to the finance community, okay? And then I presume that's also happening in other areas as well. So greater integration of IB research into their respective disciplines, so that there will be no silo within and also with the respective disciplines. In fact, this is something that we're actually pushing now with the GIPS in the finance track.
Okay.
Yeah.
About the grand challenges you started discussing, are we talking about in general terms in the world, in the globe, or are we talking about a specific area, or is there anything specific to Africa that is going to be the driver for that context?
So Africa is definitely one example. In fact, I should have mentioned that, because that's one area which is grossly under-researched in IB. Okay, and it turns out that, by the way, Africa is very heavily researched in economics. In fact, there are Nobel Prize winners in economics, okay, researching on Africa. But IB, so there is actually growing attention now. There is a slight growing attention. I'm actually sitting on a paper which has been submitted to GIPS on this issue. So Africa definitely is part of the challenge. And I would say it's a grand challenge because you have a host of imperfections, institutions, and governance, political economies, which are pretty much grand, is that right? And then really taking the IB paradigms and also getting informed by the African specifics to actually enhance IB research is one challenging example that you mentioned. But I was also broadly talking about grand challenges in terms of these burning issues that we talk about, the environment, climate change, the fintech, by the way, fintech, these are financial technology-enabled financial services. They have IB implications. We talk about financial entrepreneurship globally, and these are actually cross-border. And so the technology dimension, that's an example of the finance part, but there are also other disciplines in IB that also would be guided by. And then you have this, artificial intelligence, machine learning on the analytic side. So.
Econ has a very well-established stream in Africa studies, for sure. How come IB, especially our management journals, international management journals, have been less than stellar in this?
The issue is not endemic to IB. It is endemic to business research. I think IB being part of business, I see this issue in marketing. I see the issue in finance. I see in strategy. So really, it's a business research phenomenon. Okay, and that is heavily under researched. And I think that IB actually should take a lead. Given that there's a huge void out there in the business. Economics, they were dealing with global issues, in the macro, and they were dealing with development issues. And you cannot deal with development without looking at low-income countries in Asia, in India, Africa. So the nature of the paradigms that began in economics are actually broader. But business is, we kind of, it's almost like a private sector mentality, right? When we start private sector mentality. And the other one, kind of private public space mentality. So I think, there's a pretty large gap that needs to be bridged. And I'm glad that you brought this up because I didn't actually put it in terms of research challenges, right? The Africa, the regional gap, basically. Yeah.
So what are some of the initiatives that you're taking at JIBS in your capacity to bring these issues to more forefront of
in a variety of ways. One is we are using this talk about survey or survey pieces or like synthetic papers. In fact, we have actually a couple of commissioned papers out there. And then, of course, now there is also an initiative to bring Africa into not. I think your question is JIBS. I don't think we have got into the Africa yet. In the JIBS.
Okay.
Something so I think one of the things that I've been kind of pushing for is to have the annual meetings, somewhere in Africa. Like it could be Cape Town, it could be Nairobi, and this is one place where you can actually get early career African researchers to get engaged. So by word of mouth, when we go to conferences, we're always mentioning this. But I think that we can actually do more by bringing in the institutional dimension, where they should also take AIB to Africa.
Okay. Great. Who was your about mentoring portion of the conversation? Yeah. Who was your mentor when you were going through the PhD program?
You mean advisor?
Yeah.
I have actually dual advisors, and this another advisor, another uncharted. I don't know how much time I have. This is another uncharted thing that happened. Okay, when I mentioned UCLA, right? So I got admitted into the UCLA PhD program, but there was no money. At the time, Governor Rockefeller, Governor Reagan, he was governor of state of California. He was anti-UC system. Okay. So then I go to my professor. You told me to apply for the PhD program. I got him. Where is the money? Oh, he said, I know another governor who's actually handing out tuition to foreigners. And that turned out to be Governor Rockefeller. Okay. So I applied to two schools, Columbia University, which I thought was a public school. I didn't know that Columbia was private, but I knew Columbia. And then he told me I should also apply to University of Buffalo. That was the heyday of finance, public. I didn't know much about it, but I applied. So I got into both of them, okay, with money. So since I knew Columbia first, I went to Columbia. And then in a week, I go to somebody's office. I knock at the guy's office to get some help. And this fearsome guy shows up and said, don't see my office hours. And I was planning to stay there. Remember, I was only planning to stay for 1 year anyway, get money and go back to Ethiopia. So then I flew to Buffalo, okay? And they gave me a red carpet treatment. And this was a heyday. And so there's two guys, like I got like really specialized mentoring. It was, then I became, that's what happened. And then even with Buffalo, the main incentive for me was they were giving me more money, and that would keep me for 1 year before I go back to Ethiopia. Okay, but so there were two guys. There was Andy Chen. He's a chair prof at I think it's retired now, SMU. So the other guy he died. And then so one very important thing for our cohort because Buffalo kind of declined after that, is that we became almost like buddies with faculty, okay? And there was this guy named Stanley Kahn. We were rivals, and we're in the same job market, getting interviews by the same schools. And then we're getting these offers from same universities. And then we decided to go to the same university, Wisconsin. and then we defended our thesis the same day. It's
Interesting.
Yeah.
Across the board, you've seen many PhD students. You've seen their common mistakes. What are some of the most major common mistakes
Okay,
that doctoral students make?
maybe the one thing that I wanted to mention is that how about a measure of success in producing students? Okay, so and at least one of them ended up becoming more prominent than I. Okay, so I have for instance this guy who actually became the editor of the Journal of Finance and became the president of the American Finance Association.
Oh,
Rick Green. Okay.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I have Bob Damon, who also went to Carnegie Mellon, another prominent guy. He became the dean at Carnegie. And then Craig Lewis at Vanderbilt, SEC chief economist, is now a chair prof. You know, so I have a string of professors, especially from Wisconsin. Okay? So I have so that's really one thing that I'm really proud of, you know. And in terms of mistakes, I don't have. I mean, really simple. For instance, when papers get rejected, the temptation is to shop around for another journal, right? And send it without doing anything about that paper. So one of the things that I mentioned is that you should always revise that paper based on the comments and suggestions that you got from the guy, even if that person has rejected your paper. First of all, there will be an improvement in what we're doing. Secondly, by the way, you'll be surprised. Sometimes the same guys would end up getting that paper at another journal, you know. So that is kind of a common mistake that people tend to make. The other is, you know, there is a positive external. The entire profession is designed around externalities. So by the time you get your paper done, it's not just you, you know. So you write your paper, you make presentations, you get comments, suggestions, and there's a kind of free positive externality out there. Conference organ, all you should take full utilization of that, because yeah, of course we don't cite everything. We don't say everyone that I've dealt with is my co-author, but nonetheless there is access to a positive externality. The other is writing. And writing. I mean, you keep on writing. I mean, communication is key, and sometimes they kind of, you know, they take this approach, start kind of building up, saying that maybe towards the end, okay, I go to the punchline. See, that's not a good strategy. You should get the punchline across immediately in the paper, immediately before it. So a lot of people do not even read, you know. Sometimes they read your abstract, their conclusions, maybe they go to introduction. So so getting this early on is really important. And of course, you should have a thick skin, you know. I mean, so some of these workshops could be very radical, you know. In fact, what I said in Ethiopia, the radical lecture that I provided, is actually peanuts relative to the radical lectures that we'll see in University of Chicago, you know. But it was too radical for another audience, but it was not radical. I was coming from this academic, you know, this academic background, you know. So I think the other is, as a result, took me a while. You know, early on, you know, we also tend to go through this Chicago type kind of confrontational. You know, we used to do that, and I'm thinking that you really don't have to be as confrontational. You can actually take your message approach, and this kind of I'm calmed down, okay. So my advice is really you be calm. You don't have to be kind of the whole notion of negativism, so it's no there are those who actually thrive in destroying people's professional life. Okay. Okay. So yeah, so I think that we need to resist that temptation.
Beautiful. For the sake of time, what's the last question? What's the question I should have asked you but haven't?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that you should probably maybe I should have been asked about my engagement with the diaspora.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even African, Ethiopian, the value proposition of diaspora, and I become even much more aware as a result of this U.S. Africa summit. There was a huge summit in December. It was 44 African leaders coming to Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah, we didn't know that.
Yeah, Africa leaders. So the U.S. is now very big on Africa, and in part because of China. China is big, So they are actually going in a big way. And what is interesting is that they are playing. They're actually incorporating the diaspora input, and they've actually used it. So that I think, and that is in some sense, the whole thing about going back to Africa and doing, member of AIRC, I would not have been doing that if I were not African diaspora. I don't think so. So yeah. I think that, by the way, that should be one of the research agenda items for AIB too. First of all, even when you take remittances, and I think that's probably true for many countries now, and for many African countries, it is ahead of direct foreign investment.
I mean, the Belt and Road initiatives are mostly misunderstood. The American mentality is different than the European mentality, the Turkish mentality, the Chinese mentality. These corridors are mostly misunderstood. They look at it as the Silk Road again, is being revived. The magnitude of the investment and the ideology behind these initiatives are completely different. And there's so much to do actually on how people are approaching it. Is it going to be a new colonial effort or not by some institutions? Thank you so much.
Which country do you come from? You have an accent like me also.
I'm Turkish.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep. So thank you for your time. I enjoyed our conversation a lot. I look forward to keeping in touch, and I'm sure the audience will agree with me. This was very helpful.
So you're turning off the recording?
Yes.